For a creative striker on Football Manager, you want to go back to edit search and then go ahead and select the striker position. Go back to add condition under stats. You want to go for aerial challenges, and under aerial challenges, you want to look for headers 1 per 90 minutes. Under headers 1 per 90, set that value to about 2. Go ahead and add condition. We're going to look for expected assists now. Under passes, the last but not the least is the conversion rate, and you want to go to stats. Under shots, go back to shots, select conversion rate, and that could be 10%, even though it's really poor at 10%. But that narrows down our list of players to like just a few players that you can go ahead and sign. Remember, if you don't see a lot of players on this list, it might mean that you have to reduce the stats a little bit, which is strange for me, honestly. So I'm going to start with the headers because as a striker, I'm not really sure if my striker should always be worried about taking headers. So I can just switch this from instead of and to or as an option. Turn off this screen and it's going to show you a lot more players that maybe have heading and other attributes combined. Go ahead and hit apply. You can start to see some players start to pop up. Jeremy Doku is in there. He's a creative striker, as the game has finally pointed out. Evan Nielsen is in there as well. And you can go all the way up to the younger players that we can see at the beginning of the list. There's Artem Shumansky. I've actually gone to sign this guy before of Football Manager using stats, and he's quite good for Leeds United. On this list, we also have Daniel Maldini. You can see some of the player attributes that are actually popping up here. So these are the stats that you can use to find a creative striker in your game. For a goal scoring striker, you want to look for headers 1 about 2.7 for an average goal scoring striker, and then 5.0 for an elite level goal scoring striker. So you're going to head over to Football Manager and go for to edit search and go over, just select the striker position and then start from the conditions under stats, aerial challenges, under aerial challenges. Let's just set this to 2.5 or 3, or let's just say 2. Since we're looking for a blend of an okay and also an elite striker, so everybody can just appear in the list. We're also going to go ahead and look for stats, and under stats we're going to add dribbles. That's under movement. Go over and add dribbles made per 90 minutes. We're going to set dribbles to at least 0.5. You can also go to stats again and add expected. I think it's under stats general. Under stats general, expected assists per 90. No expected assists, non-expected penalty goals per 90 minutes. Go ahead and select 2.5, 0.25. We're also going to add shots on target. So go back to shots on target per 90 minutes. At least 1 or 2 is going to be enough for a striker. And conversion rate is what we're looking for next. Go back to stats, under shots, conversion rate. For an elite striker, that's going to be about 30%. So I'm just going to drop this shot to maybe 1 shot per game. It's still too high, so we're going to drop the conversion rate to like 10. That brings us down to a lot of players. Let's push the conversion rate to 20. That leaves us with 15 players that are good at converting. I can see that Victor Gyökeres is top of the list. There are also some other players in here. Some of them are 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. They're like 3-star. They may not jump into the Bayern team just yet, but they might be good enough for a mid-table team. But those are the stats that you can use to help you find strikers that are good enough to get into your game. For a creative midfielder on Football Manager, go over to edit search, and under the edit search, go ahead and lock in your central midfield and defensive midfield positions. But in this one, go back to stats, and under stats, you're going to look for passes, progressive passes per 90. Go ahead and select that option and lock it to 3.5 or maybe 4.5 to be honest. Then you're going to add one key instrument here, which is stats. Under stats, go to passes, open play key passes per 90. Go ahead and select that option and then dial it all the way up to 1. Next stat you want to look for is expected assists per 90. You want that to be either 0.3 or 0.1 in place in the lower leagues. Dribbles per 90, you want that to be 2.5. So we're going to go back to Football Manager and we're going to go back to Football Manager and under stats general, go to general and say expected assists per 90. Under expected assists per 90, drop this down to maybe 0.3. Then you can go ahead and add dribbles, and under stats, go back to movement, and under movement, dribbles made per 90. Maybe that should be around 1 or 2. They'll just set it to like maybe 0.5 at some point. That's going to narrow down your search to about 2 players. And there's one player here in Rodhausen, a defensive midfielder, by the way. Not very good with stats, but we can go ahead and dial it down in case you do not find anybody coming up in your team. In case you do not find anybody popping up in your search, go ahead and drop the dial all the way down so you can see a bit more players. Dribbles made, we can drop this down to, okay, we're going to leave it at 0.5. Open play key passes, we're going to drop this down to 0.5. And then progressive passes, drop this maybe from 3 all the way down to 2.5. And go ahead and click apply and see who pops up on our list. So there's Arsenal's Eberechi Eze, of course. We can go ahead and sign him if the money is there, 57 million. I don't know how willing Arsenal are to let him go. There's Milton Delgado here at Boca Juniors. He may not fit into Bayern's team very easily, but he's a 20-year-old Argentine player that has very good attributes for natural fitness, passing 14, vision 14. He could improve a lot. So in a mid-table team or thereabout, you can go ahead and grab this kind of player. For a wide goal-scoring attacker, you want to go to your edit search, and under edit search, go ahead and select only the attacking midfield, left and right positions. And under conditions, you can go ahead and look for stats. Under stats, go to movement, and under movement, dribbles made per 90 minutes. You can set that to maybe 2.5. Now, the next one you need to look at is stats for shots. Go back to shots, shots taken or shots on target per 90 minutes. Sorry, under shots on target per 90, set that to 1.0. That's going to narrow down the player list to a few more players that you can look at. The next stat we can add is sprints per 90. You can either set that to 17 or 14, depending on the kind of player that you're looking for. A mid-table player will likely be 14. Non-expected penalty goes to 0.25. Over to Football Manager, we're going to go to stats, and under stats, movement, you can go to dribbles made per 90 minutes. Instead of going all the way up to 14, you can start from starting from maybe 5 dribbles. That's going to narrow down our players. Next is non-expected penalty goals. Go back to stats, general. Under general stats, you can see non-expected penalty goals. You're going to have to scroll down a little bit. Non-expected penalty goals per 90. You can go ahead and put that to maybe 0.25. That's going to narrow down our player to maybe 12 players on the list. Last but not the least is the conversion rate. Go back to stats, under shots, conversion rate. I'm feeling lucky. I'm going to set it to 10. And under 10, that's going to just narrow down our players to like 5 players only. So dribbles made, I'm just going to tone this down to maybe 3. That's going to have a lot more players for us to look at, and go ahead and hit apply. So starting with the youngest, there's some other players that we can go ahead and look at here. There's Sergei Piliaev, if I explain for VfB Stuttgart. He has acceleration 16, agility 16, good crossing, good first touch. Well, finishing not so good. Mentals could use a bit of work as well, but he's off the ball and determination is poor. But decision making is quite good. So in case you're looking for that sort of player, you can go ahead and sign him. It could cost 33 million. Wow, that's a lot for a player of this quality. But compared to Alejandro Garnacho that is in the same list, Garnacho is costing 221 million and Piliaev is only costing like 3 million. For a wide creative attacker, you want to go back to your edit search and look for conditions. First, go ahead and select the roles, by the way. You select midfielder left and attacking midfielder left, midfielder right and attacking midfielder right. This is 4 players that are creative wide attackers. Under conditions, go back to stats, and under stats, go back to dribbles. That's going to be under movement. Dribbles made per 90 minutes. Go ahead and set that to 2.5. For open play crosses, you can look for 0.66 in case you're looking for an elite level player, or 0.33 in case you're looking for a mid-table player. We're going to go back to stats, and under stats, go back to crosses, open play crosses completed per 90. Go back there and select 0. Let's just use 0.5 just to find the middle ground in between. Another condition we're going to add is under stats, under movement, dribbles made per 90 minutes. You can set that to maybe 10. Let's move it all the way up to 10. Okay, 10 has just locked out everybody, so that's a very high amount. Let's just set it to 5. That just leaves us with some players to look at. Also going to look for passes. Under stats, go to passes, open play key passes per 90. Push that all the way maybe 0.5. If it's still too low, you can set that to maybe 1.5. The last item we're going to look at is stats general. Under general, you're going to look for expected assists per 90 minutes. And under expected assists, push that all the way up to 0.5. In case that is too high for you, you can drop it down to 0.2 in case you don't have any players popping up. With 0.2, we do have some players showing up right now. And we can see there's an excellent player who is good for signing. Jadon Sancho is currently playing at Aston Villa. Jeremy Doku is also there. But then we have Antonio Nusa at RB Leipzig. He's going to cost about 16 million. And there's a player here at Homburg, Ken Mata. He currently has no rating assigned to him. Probably a very good player for the lower leagues in case you're looking for that sort of player. You can go ahead and sign him. And he has what's the number I'm going to call it now? He has the same stats delivery as players like Jadon Sancho and all the other ones. So in case you're playing in the lower leagues, this is going to be a very good signing for you. Filtering it by age, we have the youngest player here in Antonio Nusa, which is like 21 years old. But in case you don't see enough players, you can always go to the stats bar and go ahead and reduce it to maybe, let's just reduce the dribbles to about 3.0 and see how many players will pop up. That sort of increases the number of players that we see. You can then go ahead and increase the expected assist to 0.5, but that just cancels everybody. You don't see any other player again. 0.3 for expected assist. Go ahead and hit apply. There's some players that are now starting to pop up. There's a player here, Augustin Antonio Nusa. There's Anzov Knauf that is playing for Eintracht Frankfurt. Very good acceleration, very good pace. Sort of an average player for the Bundesliga, to be honest. So in case it's that sort of player that you're looking for, you can use these stats to actually go ahead and find them. Go to your recruitment tab and under the player database option, select the player database, and you're going to go ahead and edit search. And under edit search, we're looking for a ball playing centre back. Go ahead and select just the centre back. That's a player role. Now, instead of just using the player roles, we're going to go to add stats, go to add conditions, and under stats, go all the way down to tackles and interceptions. And the first one you want to add is tackles per 90. Go ahead and select that and then select all the options for tackle per 90, increase the value to 1.0. That's going to narrow down the players to a certain small amount. Clearances per 90 for a good centre back should be around 0.89 and interception should be around 3. We're going to go back to Football Manager and go ahead and add conditions. Under stats, go back to clearances, that's under tackles and interceptions. Clearances per 90, go ahead and set that option in there. It's around 0.9, so I just need to set it to, or it's around 0.89, so we're going to set it to 1.0 as well. And then next is interceptions per 90, go back to stats, under tackles and interceptions. Go ahead and look for interceptions per 90 minutes. That should be around 3. So go ahead and select 3. You also want to look for players with shot block per 90 of 0.63 and progressive passes 6.9. We're going to go back to the stats page. Under conditions, go back to stats, progressive passes, that's under passes. Progressive passes per 90, set that to 6. And the last one is shots blocks, that's under stats as well. Under shots, oh no, not shots, under tackles and interceptions, you're going to see shot blocks per 90. That should be around 0.6. We're going to set that to 0.5 and go ahead and click apply. Now you see that on Football Manager, no player actually pops up. So we're going to have to go into the stats ourselves and tweak it a little bit until we start seeing some players pop up in our list. Interceptions, I'm going to just drop this down to maybe 2.5. And progressive passes per 90, I'm going to drop that to maybe 4.0. That just brings up one player for us to look at. And that player is a 24-year-old. He's a German playing for Paderborn, Laura Garcia Kuda. Is it Kuda? Looking at his player attributes, he's quite average to be honest. But in case you don't see any good players in your list, go back to the stats page and tweak some of the stats that are in here to help you find players that are going to appear in your save. Now I'm going to start with the shots blocked defending per 90. I'm going to drop that to 0.25. Progressive passes per 90. I'm going to drop that to 3.0. Now you can go ahead and drop some other options. Tackles per game is currently 1.0. I'm going to set that to 0.5. And that's just giving us already a long list of players that we can actually go ahead and look at. And there's a player here in Nico Schlotterbeck. He's playing for Borussia Dortmund. We probably will not be able to sign him. But there's a 19-year-old here in Luka Vuskovic. He's playing for Hamburger. 19-year-old. Looking at his stats, he's on loan from Spurs. He's quite a good player, to be honest. One player that we probably want to keep an eye on. There's another interesting player here in El Shidali Batshuayi. He's probably from Belgium. He's currently £42 million. You can buy him from RB Leipzig. Good acceleration, good pace. Wow. He's a top defender, and for a team like Bayern, he's going to get into the team very easily. And he's quite a young player as well. So this is how you can go about using stats to help you find very good players on Football Manager. For a central defender on FM24, you want to go into the edit search and then lock it to central defender. The first thing you want to go ahead and add is under the stats page, go over to aerial challenges. Under aerial challenges, headers 1 per 90. Go ahead and select headers 1 per 90 to about 2.0. You want to go back to the conditions and go ahead and add stats. Under stats, area challenges. Under area challenges, you want to select headers 1 ratio. Under headers 1 ratio, set it to 80%. You want to go ahead and add clearances. Go back to stats. Under tackles and interceptions, you're going to see clearances per 90 minutes. For clearances per 90, you need it to be 1.64. So we're going to go into the game and then maybe set it to 1.5. For the central defender, you're going to see interceptions 3.1 and shots blocks 0.72. We're going to go back to the game, go over interceptions, look for stats, tackles and interceptions. Under interceptions per 90, set that to maybe 3 or 3.1. Let's continue to leave it to 3. Go back to stats. Under stats, tackles and interceptions, shots blocked per 90, drop that down to maybe 0.5. Now you may not see any players pop up in your save. You have to go back to the stats and start to tweak them so you can start having players popping up. Interceptions per 90, you can drop this to maybe 1.5. That's going to have a bit more players in your team, or a bit more players in your stats page popping up. Some of them we already know, like Axel Zagadou. He is quite good, but he's not by many quality, so he's not going to fit into our team. It's not going to improve the team. So you can go ahead and check some other players that may actually pop up. Headers 1 ratio, you can drop this to maybe 60% and see the kind of players that pop up. Now that we have that 60, there are more players. So you can increase this value now for shot blocks when defending to maybe 1.25. Go ahead and hit apply. There's another player here that's popped up, Kevin Danso. He's currently 7th. He's currently 27 already. He's a practical signing for Bayern, but not the very best. It's not also going to improve the team. I will go ahead and drop the clearances per 90 because for a normal central defender, well, as much as you want him to clear the ball, let's just drop it down to 0.5 and see the sort of players that actually pop up. Still Kevin Danto and Lewis Dunk. Most of these players, there's a young player here that is playing for Alumnia Aachen. May not really go well into the Bayern team, but in case you're managing a mid-table team or an average team, he could fit into your team. If you're managing in the lower leagues, you can go ahead and use this guy. Based on stats, he's actually a very good player. You want to go over to your recruitment tab, and under recruitment, go over to edit search. Now go ahead and select wingback positions. Now when you go ahead and select the wingback, go to add conditions, and under stats, go over to stats and look for tackles. tackles per 90, set that to about 2.5. Then again, go back to stats and go back to interceptions, tackles and interceptions. Look for interceptions per 90, set that also to 2.5. You also want to look for pressure completed about 2.79 and open play crosses 0.25. Under crosses, you can look for open play crosses completed per 90, 0.25. We're also going to go ahead and add pressures. Go back to stats, under tackles and interceptions, pressure completed per 90 minutes. Go over and choose 0.25 or maybe even 2. One more thing we need to add is the dribbles. Over stats, under movement, we're going to look for dribbles made per 90 minutes. Go back there and drop maybe 4 dribbles completed. That narrows us down to like 3 players. So let's just drop that down a little bit. Maybe 2.0 for dribbles, or that's also too many players. 3.5. Let's just leave it at 3 and see how many players actually pop. But go ahead and hit apply. Now, once we've narrowed down our players to about 16 players, you can see some players that we can actually go ahead and sign. Dalo is not maybe one of the players that I may want to sign, but there's an interesting player here in Michael Coyote. His rating is not really showing up yet, but you have to actually scout him further, and then you can go ahead and see what he's capable of. But for Bayern Munich, this could be a player that is worth signing. He's quite expensive on the high side because he's playing for Brentford, but there's another alternative here in Hugo Alvarez that is playing for Celta Vigo. If you look at Hugo's attributes, very good crossing, very good dribbling as well, good acceleration. His marking is quite good. His work rate is also very good. But he's maybe what the mid-table sort of kind of team. You could also consider signing him. There's an interesting 24-year-old here in Christopher Lund that is currently playing at FC Cologne. He's on loan from Palermo, or he's on loan to Palermo. He's on loan from Palermo to FC Cologne. So being Bayern Munich that we are, we could probably price him out of Cologne and then sign him into the squad. And obviously being 24 years old, he can go ahead and improve over time and become a very top player for us. For a midfield destroyer, you want to go over to your edit search, and under the search, go ahead and select the central midfield and defensive midfield positions. Once you have those positions all down, you go over to your stats page. Under stats, go over to tackles and interceptions, tackles completed per 90. All the way down here, go ahead and select tackles completed per 90, set that to 2.5. Also go back to stats, go for interceptions. Under interceptions per 90 minutes, set that to maybe 1.5. For interceptions per 90, 1.5. Under stats again, go back to tackles and then blocks completed per 90 minutes, set that to maybe 0.5. So that's going to narrow you down to like 3 players. In case it's too small an amount, you can go ahead and drop the other stats just to help you filter and then bring out more players for you. You can go ahead and see some interesting player here. There's a player that plays for Freiburg, Johan Manzambi. He's a Switzerland player. Look at those attributes: determination, work rate, tackling, technique, all quite stacked. And you can actually sign him for about £46 million. In FM26, you can talk the agent into giving you a very, very good price, which is quite good. Or you can go ahead and sign Manzambi, this sort of player. In case you're in the lower leagues, you can look at all the other options that are available to you. There's Heather Belling B and Dion Adzavi, quite a mid-table sort of player. So you can go ahead and snap him up from Heather Belling second team. You want to go into your recruitment tab, and under edit search, go ahead and edit the search and check only the fullbacks option. You can go over to add conditions, and under add condition, go over to stats. Under stats, head over to tackles and interceptions, and under tackles per 90, go ahead and select tackles per 90, find this option and type in 2.5. We're looking for an okay fullback, because I noticed that if you try to find a very, very good fullback, you may not see anybody in your list. You also want to look for interceptions 2.75 and pressure completed 2.48. On FM26, we can go over to out conditions, under stats, tackles and interceptions, look for interceptions per 90. Under that option, we're also going to go ahead and add 2.5. And also we're going to look for pressure under stats. I think that's under tackles and interceptions as well. Pressure completed per 90, not pressure attempted. Pressure completed per 90. Also 2.5, let's just say 2. The last 2 options here are open play crosses completed 0.14 and progressive passes about 6. Inside of Football Manager, we can go back to stats. Open play passes, that's under passes. Open play crosses completed. Okay, we can't find that under passes, it's under crosses. Open play crosses completed per 90 minutes was around 0.14, so we're going to pick 0.25. And the last is progressive passes, that's under stats. Go back to stats, progressive passes per 90. It was about 6.0. So let's just go ahead and select 6 and see what that narrows down our players to. So that gives us a fair bit of number of players that we can actually go ahead and look at. There's Julian Timber in there. You can go ahead and sign Julian Timber for 24, but it's probably going to cost you a lot of money. But in case you can't sign Julian Timber, there's Nathaniel Brown. He is playing for Eintracht Frankfurt, and if you look at his player attributes, Very good pace, good acceleration. He's currently 22 years old, so he has a lot of development that he can actually go ahead and do. Crossing and dribbling are quite good as well. His marking is currently at 10, so he could use some improvement in marking, but he's a fullback, right? So he's going to obviously try to get forward. Tackling is about 15 and work rate is 15. Teamwork is 15. He is a very, very, very good player. And in the player database, go ahead and click edit search. Now you're going to go ahead and input some stats. You're going to lock the age range to age around maybe 20 or 19 if possible. While using FM Stacks, what does good look like spreadsheet for statistics? And we can look at the goalkeeper. A very good goalkeeper that could come into Bayern Munich will need to have an XG prevented rating of 0.25. You want to go over to the conditions, and under conditions, go to stats. Under stats, go over to saves, and under saves, you can see expected goals prevented per 90. Go ahead and select that option and then dial it down all the way up to 0.25. Once you do that, that sort of narrows your list down to a very small group of players. Now, there are a lot more stats that you can go ahead and input in case you want to narrow the list down enough. But here we are, we have Dennis Seaman, and Dennis Seaman, he's a 20-year-old player that currently plays for Paderborn. Apparently, he's on loan from VSB Stuttgart, and you can see his attributes. He's a well-off top goalkeeper that is still very young. In case your list is too long, you can go over to FM Stag and look at what does good look like on Football Manager, and then it's going to give you a spreadsheet of stats that you can go ahead and include in those stats to give you a smaller list. Now, I'm only using XG goals prevented and 0.25. That gave us a goalkeeper already, but you can go ahead and add goals conceded per 90, interceptions per 90. You can go ahead and add pass completion 97%. Input that into your Football Manager. You should narrow down your list down to a group of players that you can start scouting. Looking at Dennis Seaman, you can see that he has eccentricity of 12, commanding area 14. He's a top goalkeeper at this level. This is how you can use stats to find good players on Football Manager, and you can actually sign them for low values as well, less than £10 million for Dennis Seaman. We'll also attach a link in the description so you can get most of these filters for yourself, just as I've gone about creating them in the video. I'll make one for FM24 and for FM26. I think FM24 filter should be able to work on FM23 if you're still playing that game. Hopefully you can download the filters and try them out and try to find players for your team.